Okay, so I finally got the 1998 version out of the way, so now I can review the 2012 version of Les Miserables. And if you watch the 98 version, I kind of reference this a lot, mainly because I saw it recently, and it's the best thing for me to compare to it, because they're probably the two newest popular adaptations. And, what did I think of this movie? I think this was like the Lord of the Rings of Les Miserables, if you will. What I mean by that is, and I feel the same way about Lord of the Rings, it's not going to get any better than this. I truly feel that way. As far as the musical goes, I still think that you could make Les Miserables not a musical and make it a trilogy like they did Lord of the Rings. But actually, someone I was talking to about that said it might get boring, because they saw the movie too, and they said this movie was sort of like, it'd get slightly ho-hum, but then something intensely exciting would happen. And it was just kind of like that the whole time. But, they also loved the movie because every time it was starting to get a little slow, something exciting happened to keep the pace. And I kind of agree, but I kind of don't, because I was caught in the movie the entire time. It never started to get slow for me. And, yeah, man, it was awesome. It really was. And, as far as the trilogy idea, I don't know. I think it might work if done right. But if you're going to make Les Miserables into one movie, this is how you do it right here. And it's not going to get better. And if you're a musical fan, if you like the Les Miserables Broadway musical, it's not getting any better than this. This is the best movie adaptation of that musical you will ever see. And yet, people still complain about it. I wonder why. We're just going to hit the ground running and start out with the flaws, or what people call the flaws. There were quite a bit, but in all honesty, people say, oh, this was messed up here, this was messed up here. What would you do any different? That's my question to all of them. For example, they say the editing's choppy. I agree. The editing was very, very choppy. It was not that, I'm not going to say it was bad, because it wasn't, it didn't break my engagement to the movie. I noticed it a little bit. But the thing is, it's a musical. And I had a 30-minute long conversation with myself on a mic that's on YouTube on my channel. It's called Let's Talk Les Miserables. It's in 3 parts. And I basically just talked about what I'm going to be saying right now. I don't think the source material for Les Miserables, the musical, as good as it is, I don't think it's the best source material to make a movie off of. With that being said, I think they did a fantastic job with it. And I think every single shortcoming of the movie is due to the limitations. The editing is by far, in my opinion, the worst of the movie. But it's okay, because I realize they have to sing the entire time, and it's non-stop. And then you hear, editing, that gets a pass for me, because, they have to keep on going. And I think they did a fine job with making it seem more like a movie, because, and this goes into another complaint, people were like, they moved the order of the songs around a little bit. I noticed, but I think that for the most part, this was to give us the time to breathe. It's like I said before, I was afraid there wouldn't be any time. And there were moments where I was like, but for the most part, they did okay because of the way they lined the songs up. There are 2 major examples. The first one is going to be Javert's solo Stars. It was, instead of being right after he finds out that Jean Valjean is back in Paris, or, when he just kind of figures out he's there again after 10 years, they make it right after he gets away from him, first entering Paris with Cosette. I think this was perfect, because you just got done with this intense scene. You got the Thénardiers, then you had this intense, chase scene, it lasted a few seconds, but through Paris, and he gets away, and then, by the way, the scenery in Stars is beautiful. It was really, I was surprised. I wasn't expecting it to be that, engaging. But it was. He's standing on top of this huge building. He's looking over at the skies, and he's looking over Paris, and it took my breath away, to be totally honest, watching. And it was a slower song, so it allowed us time to, catch our breath and get resituated and ready for more action at hand. And people are complaining about that? Why? I'm sorry it's not in the same order your beautiful little Broadway musical is, but guess what? A Broadway musical is different than a movie. In a Broadway musical, you have set changes, so you can sit there and breathe while they change the sets. In a movie, you don't have that. If I think of the musical on Broadway going the same as the movie, I'd be saying it was good, but it was a little overkill. And while it was still a little overkill, they got rid of so much other potential overkill, if you'll excuse my repeated use of the word, that I can forgive it for being a little bit, because it could have been a lot more. So it gets a pass on that. And another song I want to talk about is Do You Hear the People Sing? That was supposed to be immediately after they find out General Lamont is dead. But instead, they change it to where they're at his funeral and they're finally rising up. And this worked because, they've been singing all this time, like Red and Black, and Marius tells them he's in love, and they're getting on him for it, and then they change it, to a different point in time. And again, this allowed us to have time to breathe, and it also added intensity to the scene where they finally rise up, because they're chanting this song in the crowds, and it's building up the momentum and getting us pumped for this rebellion, and finally it happens, and then they're like, "Get to the barricades!" And it's a pretty shabby little barricade. I couldn't really find a picture of it that's in detail, and I heard people complaining about that, like, the barricade's small. They don't understand the point. The barricade is supposed to be small. It's supposed to show, how weak and ill-equipped these rebels are. Sort of like in Star Wars, but, in a different way. But it's supposed to show how weak they are, and yet they still have the guts. Sorry about that, bad editing. Anyway, they still have the guts to rise up against a government that's been oppressing them when they really have no realistic chance. And if the barricade was huge, you'd think that a smaller, more well-equipped group was behind it. But I like the fact that it was small, so it shows, their despair and how weak their cause truly was, but how much it meant to them. And that, in essence, is what Les Miserables is all about. It's about bad things happening to people, but never mind, I just went on something else. Les Miserables is actually more about Eponine, but Les Miserables helps define this, because it's about them rising up when they don't have the power to truly make a difference, but it's the right thing in their hearts, and that's what makes this more impactful and powerful. And if the barricade was big, then cool, got a big barricade. That's really just about it. It'd look cool, but it wouldn't have the same impact or the same meaning. And now I'm going to get into that's really the main issues that people talk about as far as this. But there's one last thing I want to address about it as far as the issues. You name an issue you have with it, how would you do it better? I can't think of a single thing I would have done better. Let's talk about Russell Crowe. You didn't think I was just going to ignore Russell Crowe and all the criticism he's been getting. People are like, he doesn't have any emotions when he sings. He's on key, but he's so boring. You can tell he's the weakest voice. Here's the thing. He's definitely the weakest voice by far. I agree. But I don't knock the film for that. Here's the thing. Javert is supposed to be formal. He's not going to show any true human emotions, really, except for, pursuit and vengeance and any other things revolving his job concerning the law. But that's the thing about his voice. It's very apart from everyone else's. It's very foreign sounding. But it's very, strict and formal. And I think that suits his character really well. Vocal-wise, he is the weakest. But I think it suited his character. So, I had fun listening to Russell Crowe sing. I was expecting to hate him, but I actually liked him. And, so that's the next criticism. And I know I've said it several times in this review already, but it's very important. How would you do it different? I think that any issue you have with the movie is due to the source material limiting it. I do not think anyone else could ever do this better. And I listed all the flaws. Now I want to talk about the good stuff about this movie, and there's a lot. I just want to focus on the bad a lot. The good's very simple. Acting is terrific, especially Hugh Jackman and Anne Hathaway, who are both nominated for Oscars. Hugh Jackman, I feel, should deserve it. Anne Hathaway, if she does not win, she is robbed. My God, what a performance on her part. I was shocked. Especially I Dreamed a Dream. My goodness. My jaw was dropped. The sets, to me, the visuals look great. Maybe I've heard some complaints, actually, which kind of surprised me. I thought they were very impressive. And just one more thing. The thing I knocked the 98 version about with lacking, and those are the Thernatias right there. They're really awesome. It's passion. This movie had so much heart and so much passion. It moved me, like very few movies have. I mean, like, I don't even know. I'd have to actually sit here and think about a movie that's moved me, close to the same amount that this one has. So, it's a very impressive film. And even if you're not a fan, I don't associate myself with musical fans. But I love the story of Les Miserables. I consider myself a movie fan. And that's why I went to see this film. Because it truly is a great film. I had a very unusual experience when I stopped watching the movie. Usually, when I get done watching the movie, I just kind of leave the theater and I'm like, yeah, it was either pretty good or it sucked or whatever. Yeah, but usually I'm glad I saw the movie because I love movies a lot, and I just kind of leave and go about my business. But with this movie, of course I'm also familiar with the story, so when spoilers, when Valjean was dying, I was like, oh crap, this movie's almost over. It was like, I felt depressed, and after the movie's going off and I'm leaving the cinema, I got this depressed feeling like crap, because I don't go to the movies nearly as often as I wish I could. So I'm not gonna get to see this movie again until I buy it on Blu-ray, which that'll be near summer now. So I got a depressed feeling, and I don't think I've ever left a movie theater before and wished that I could see the movie again. Not immediately. I'm talking the movie wasn't even over, and I was wishing I could start it over. And think about it, it's another world to me. It's not even like a film. It's like an experience. If you can see this in the theaters, see it. It's my favorite film of the year so far, of all the movies I've seen. And I think you guys would love it too. Again, it's got heart. It's got passion. It has so much passion. And the last scene of the movie almost made me cry. I'm not a tearjerker. It's hard to make me cry. The only movie that made me cry, I mean, I've never cried in the movies, I'll say that, but I had to really fight back at the end of this. It was very intense emotionally. And maybe it's the theater background, and the screen, but, and the sound, but it was a great ending scene. Fantastic. That and Toy Story 3 are probably the two movies that have got me that emotional. But I'm going to give this a 10 out of 10. It could not possibly get better. If you like the musical, this is the best it's ever going to be.